Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Sultara His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai BBT founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Ramsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Shri Jai Nitai Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Brihat Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Malesh Madhava. Hare Krishna. So it is a wonderful opportunity to be here with all the devotees again at Shri Radha Govinda Mandir here in Brooklyn. So I'd like to express my deep gratitude and appreciation to the devotees for allowing me to be here and for continuing to invite me back. So thank you very much, but I will understand if you don't invite me back again, because, I get it. It's okay. Hare Krishna. So it's lovely to be here, especially in this wonderful Kartik season, and the association of Radha Govinda, and recently just hearing from the Prabhupada Lilamrita all about Srila Prabhupada's ecstatic adventures in New York from beginning to end, and how dear these wonderful deities are to him. And so always a pleasure to be in their darshan and the association of their beloved devotees. So thank you very much for being here and for all the service that you do to keep things going here in this massive project and massive temple. For sure it's not easy. So congratulations to all of you, and Hare Krishna. So we're going to be continuing reading from the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, and the 4th canto is entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order, and we're reading from chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead, and today we'll be reading text number 12. Before I begin, I would like to seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially those senior devotees, Senior Prajumna Prabhu, who's come all the way from the UK just to keep an eye on me, check up. Really lovely to see you here, Prabhu. Thank you for being here and jumping right in to roll some burfies and make it happen. So only by the mercy of Vaishnavas is anything possible, so I am therefore seeking your blessings that I can speak something relevant and bona fide from the pages of this most exalted scripture, the Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, and reading from the 4th canto, which is the sort of shins, the calves of the Supreme Lord, so like that. So we can repeat the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tamevam Shila Sampanam Brahmanyam Dinavatsalam Goptaram Dhamma Setunam Menire Pitaram Prajaha Tamevam Shila Sampanam Brahmanyam Dinavatsalam Guptaram Dhamma Setunam Menire Pitaram Prajaha Tamevam Shila Sampanam Brahmanyam Dinavatsalam Goptaram Dhamma Setunam Menire Pitaram Prajaha. Lady? Word for word translation. Tam, him. Evam, thus. Shila, with godly qualities. Sampanam, endowed. Brahmanyam, respectful to the brahmanas. Dina, to the poor. Vatsalam, kind. Goptaram, protector. Dharma Setunam, of religious principles. Menire, thought. Pitaram, father. Prajaha, the citizens. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dhruva Maharaj was endowed with all godly qualities. He was very respectful to the devotees of the Supreme Lord and very kind to the poor and innocent. He protected religious principles. and he protected religious principles. With all these qualifications, he was considered to be the direct father of all the citizens. Purport. The personal qualities of Dhruva Maharaj described herein are the exemplary qualities of a saintly king. Not only a king, but also the leaders of a modern democratic or impersonal government must be qualified with all these godly characteristics. Then the citizens of the state can be happy. It is clearly stated here that the citizens thought of Dhruva Maharaj as their father. As a child, depending on the able father, is completely satisfied, so the citizens of the state, being protected by the state or the king, should remain satisfied in every respect. At the present moment, however, there is no guarantee by the government of even the primary necessities of life in the state, namely the protection of the lives and property of the citizens. One word is very significant in this connection: Brahmanyam. Dhruva Maharaj was very devoted to the Brahmanas, who engaged in the study of the Vedas and thereby know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're always busy propagating Krishna consciousness. The state should be very respectful to societies that distribute God consciousness all over the world. But, unfortunately, at the present moment, there is no state or government support given to such movements. As for good qualities, it is very difficult to find anyone in state administration with any good qualities. The administrators simply sit in their administrative posts and say no to every request, as if they were paid to say no to the citizens. Jai Prabhupada. Another word, Dina Vatsalam, is very significant also. The state head should be very kind to the innocent. Unfortunately, in this age, the state agents and the presidents draw good salaries from the state, and they pose themselves as very pious, but they allow the running of slaughterhouses where innocent animals are killed. If we try to compare the godly qualities of Dhruva Maharaj to the qualities of modern statesmen, we can see that there is no actual comparison. Dhruva Maharaj was present in the Satya Yuga, as will be clear from the next verses. He was the ideal king in Satya Yuga. The government administration in the present age, Kali Yuga, is bereft of all godly qualities. Considering all these points, the people today have no alternative but to take to Krishna consciousness for protection of religion, life, and property. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So verse again. Tam evam shila sampanam brahmanyam dina vatsalam goptaram dharma setunam menire pitaram praja. Dhruva Maharaj was endowed with all godly qualities. He was very respectful to the devotees of the Supreme Lord and very kind to the poor and innocent. He protected religious principles. With all these qualifications, he was considered to be the direct father of all citizens. So this is a wonderful section of the Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. And often the first parts of Dhruva Maharaj's Leela are spoken on and remembered. This part of the pastime is, I find it very interesting and very intriguing for many different reasons. And if we go back to the end of chapter 11, we see that there's a statement made there that says, as a result of this was a statement made by Swayambhuva Manu to Dhruva Maharaj, and he basically says, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the three worlds. You've achieved the perfection of life because the Lord has personally appeared before you and blessed you. He was touched on the head by the conch of the Supreme Lord, who blessed him, gave him his own planet, even though he didn't want that. And we know that whole pastime, we're not going to get into that. But the point is that Dhruva Maharaj had achieved perfection. And it often begs the question that, because many times we think that, well, if I achieve perfection, then that's the end. But for Dhruva Maharaj, he achieved perfection and he was just a young boy, and it was actually just the beginning. Excuse me. In a similar way, Prahlad Maharaj achieved perfection, and it was just the beginning for him also. Both of them, in both cases, were requested to take up immense responsibility. You could say for Prahlad Maharaj it was maybe even a little more intense, because he was meant to be the king of the demons. He was meant to be the ruler of the demoniac race. Whereas Dhruva Maharaj was going to be the king under his under King Uttanapad, take over from King Uttanapad and rule over the kingdom. So in one sense you could say more auspicious, but yet in a perfected state, still having to take up immense responsibility. And then leading to this pastime, Dhruva Maharaj winds up becoming angry. He succumbs to anger. Remember, he's already achieved perfection. Now somehow he's succumbed to anger. And in that state of anger and immense upset, also becoming upset about the death of his brother, which incited the anger, then he begins to annihilate the yakshas and really makes a serious dent in their race. So much so that Kuvera becomes very disturbed, and Swayambhuva Manu comes and speaks to Dhruva Maharaj to try to give him good instruction. So from this, I thought that there were quite a few interesting points leading up to today's verse. The first one is that Swayambhuva Manu intervenes. Swayambhuva Manu comes and he begins to give good guidance. And I was thinking how valuable this is, because often in our lives, it's like they say that the plane, even though you look on the screen when you're traveling, it looks like the plane goes in a straight line, but they say that the plane is hardly ever actually on that line. It's perpetually slightly off course, and it's being constantly pulled back onto course. Just like our mind when we chant japa, and life in general, we're often swaying a little bit off the yellow brick road. We gotta get back on sometimes. And so it's very important that we have personalities in our lives who can intervene, who can create an intervention, especially senior devotees and persons who really have our best interests at heart. Persons who can come and sit with us and in a respectful way help us to see that things are not really going well for you right now, and there might need to be some adjustments. The challenge is that it's not always easy to accept such intervention. I don't know if anyone here has ever had that experience, but sometimes the best advice given by the best person at the best of times still hits the false ego like a ton of bricks, and all we want to do is tell them rude and obnoxious things. Who are you to instruct me? How dare you come here? What gives you the right? Or the nature of the false ego is often to defend by becoming critical about them and reflecting back on them. But you did this, you do that. But here we see Swayambhuva Manu is coming in the mood of great respect, and he is trying to instruct Dhruva Maharaj in the best possible way. And in the mood of great personalities, we see with Narada Muni, at the moment we're reading with the pastime of King Paranjan, King Prachini Barhishat. And I'm thinking, chapter after chapter, Narada Muni is telling this kind of fable, which isn't even a real thing, just simply to make a point to King Prachini Barhishat, which he could have just walked in and said, why are you being so obnoxious by going out and hunting, killing animals, and performing these sacrifices? You should just take the devotional service. But Narada Muni is like, no, please sit. Let me tell you a story. And then, like 3-4 chapters later, the story's still going on. And King Prachini Barhishat is like, I think you're trying to tell me something, right? It reminds me of, Lord Chaitanya with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sat for 7 days listening to him espouse Mayavad philosophy, and just patiently listening, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is like, are you listening? Are you hearing anything? Yes, Prabhu, I've heard everything you've said. None of it makes any sense, but I heard everything you said. So like this, we see that saintly people are endowed with immense patience and immense sensitivity. It's like they can almost see the false ego around someone, and they know that it's not always going to be penetrated by trying to burst through. So they, it's the epitome of the example of in like a needle, out like a plow. They go in very, very minutely. You don't even notice they're getting in there. And then the next thing it's like, wow, God, that was so powerful. So like this, I think another example, Swayambhuva Manu, his method of intervention. Then there's this principle of anger and conquering over anger, which isn't easy. It is listed in the Gita as one of the gates to hell. And we see that Dhruva Maharaj in a perfected state was affected by anger. and had to be talked down from his anger by Swayambhuva Manu. And we know that anger generally is understood to be derived from lust, the strong propensity to exploit something or someone in this world for our own pleasure. And then arises anger out of frustration. And so Swayambhuva Manu is addressing this anger, and he's giving such good advice, Krishna conscious advice, helping Dhruva Maharaj to understand that this anger that's driving you is driven from the principle of I and my. You are thinking that this is your brother. You're thinking that you have to do this, you have to do that. And you're thinking that these yakshas, they killed your brother. But what does he say? What actually killed his brother? The offense? What was it when Swayambhuva Manu was speaking to Dhruva, intervening? He explained that you didn't kill the yakshas, and also they didn't kill your brother. Arrangement of the Lord, yes, through what medium? Time. Inevitable time. It's like, sometimes when I hear that, it's like, I preferred like the Lord, but but when you say it's just because it is actually true. Inevitable time. We're sitting here and we're not always so conscious of just how time is pulling away everything. And we don't know. We think, when I get old, then I will die. But we just don't know. Time, like that can just come, and the next thing you know, it's all over for us. So the power of inevitable time. So after this instruction, then Dhruva Maharaj goes back to his service with a full-on mentality or he's being encouraged to go back to his service with this full-on mentality of doing everything as a service to the Lord. And it's interesting how once Dhruva Maharaj, once his heart had been changed, well, he was also instructed by Swayambhuva Manu to go to Kuvera and offer apologies, because Kuvera was the father of the yakshas, and he said he's become very upset, so you should go and offer apologies. Another important point, that if we've done something wrong, we shouldn't hesitate to go and offer obeisances and apologize for it. I don't know if anyone has had that experience where they know they were out of line and they did something, but something stops you from going and apologizing. And it's usually not a person. It's like an inner voice or a feeling of, usually it's some driven, I find in myself, because I get it all the time, this feeling of pride, a fear of looking bad, being the one who was wrong, not being right. And if I think, I have to go and apologize, then my mind starts to give a whole bunch of reasons why I shouldn't, or why they were actually the one that was wrong. But ultimately, there's a story I tell of an experience I had early on when I was a devotee. I'm still trying to become a devotee. It's called the pen story. Has anyone heard me tell that pen story? Did I tell that here before? Would you like to hear it? It's a personal story, but yes. So early on when I joined, I heard that Srila Prabhupada said, if you want to remember, you only have to remember one thing. Anyone knows what that one thing is? No, that's what I would have thought too. But he said, if you want to remember, you just have to remember to write it down. And I thought, that's amazing. You have to remember to write it down. And this was a little before everyone had iPads and iPhones and digital writing. So I was like, yes. And I got a notebook and I got a pen and I kept it in my kurta pocket. And every lecture I was writing down, any class I was trying to make notes, and I was just trying to remember by writing it down. But we had this custom in the mornings, sometimes during Japa, that if it was someone's birthday or someone was leaving in the community or someone had some special thing, we would get a card and everyone would sign the card. So this one morning, one devotee was leaving or something, and I went over and I signed the card. And then another devotee came up behind me and he said, "Oh, Prabhu, can I borrow your pen to sign the card?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem. Just can you make sure I get it back before class so that I can, take notes?" And he said, yeah, no problem. And I said, "Great." So I walked off. I went off to do some study. He did his thing. And then I realized in class, I reached for my pen to take notes, and I didn't have my pen because he didn't return the pen. And I looked over where the card was, and I didn't see the pen. And I looked for the devotee, and I didn't see him. And I was like, well, where? Anyway, so later I asked him, "Prabhu, have you got my pen?" He said, "Oh, no, I gave it to somebody else. Sorry about that." And I said, No, Prabhu. We had an agreement. I'll lend you the pen, and you'll return it. And he said, "It's just a pen, Prabhu." And I said, "No, it's just my pen, Prabhu. It wasn't your pen to decide what to do with." And you can immediately feel the tension building because I'm making a big deal. But I'm like, no, we had an agreement and I have the pen and I use it. And so I said, "No problem. You go find the pen. I'm going to go get changed to go out on Sankirtan, and then I'll meet you here in a few minutes and you can give me the pen." And he said, "I don't know where the pen is." I said, "It's okay. I'm sure Krishna will help you to find it." So you can see the nature coming up. So I went upstairs, I came down, and as I was coming down the steps, any of you who've been to Soho Street, if you come down from the Brahmacharya ashram, it's like these winding steps. And I came down the steps to what used to be the Sankirtan office. And as I was coming down the steps, I could hear this devotee starting to lose grip on reality. And he was saying, "What is his problem? Why is he, pressurizing me about this pen? This is really stressing. It's just a stupid pen." And as I rounded the corner, I could see he was speaking to my mentor and to other devotees, and there was a whole group of devotees. And as I turned the corner, everyone looked at me like, dum, dum, dum. Enter the villain. And I thought, why is everyone looking at me like I'm the bad guy here? This guy took my pen. So anyway, he was looking at me and I was looking at him and everyone was looking at me, and he's like, "Why did you take the pen?" Or why are you pressurizing me? And I was like thinking, what is going on here? The reality has become jaded. No one understands. And I remember, unfortunately, consciously thinking that of what I wanted to do to this devotee, which wasn't like, be very nice. And all of a sudden, I looked at him and I realized he had become so distressed that he was actually starting to cry. And I thought, have I caused this? And I realized that even though I may think I'm right about what's happening here, and if I took it to a court of law, I would be proven right, but even though I think I'm right, the effect of this situation is so wrong. And then I felt overwhelmed and I just immediately got down on the ground and offered obeisances. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And as soon as I hit the ground, he hit the ground, everyone in the room hit the ground, everyone was like, Vanchakalpas, and it was like this resounding sound, and I stood up, and he stood up, and I said, "I'm so sorry that I've caused you so much distress." And he said, "No, Prabhu, it's my fault. I should have given your pen back." Inside I started thinking, well, if you had done that, we wouldn't be in this situation. But anyway, I thought, "No, Prabhu, it was my fault. It's just a stupid pen." And he's like, "No, it was your pen. We hugged, and everyone hugged, and it was like, oh. I can't remember why I was telling this story anyway, but I never got the pen back, no. I had to get another pen. But wherever I've told that story now, if they ever take a pen from me, they make sure they give it back to me. Oh, no, I remember why. Because, I did remember, but I forgot, that actually it's not always so easy to take good advice, and that sometimes we have a tendency to not be able to hear if someone comes and we push back blame on them. And it's not always all about being right. It's actually about doing the right thing. So when his heart changed, when Dhruva Maharaj's heart changed because he agreed with Swayambhuva Manu, he got good advice, and he was going to go and offer respects to Kuvera, Kuvera appeared before him, and Kuvera appeared with folded palms offering him respects. So even though Kuvera had been so angry, but because the heart of Dhruva Maharaj had changed, then it also changed the heart of Kuvera. And then their interaction became very amicable. It was a very loving exchange. And even though Dhruva Maharaj had killed so many of the Yakshas, and Kuvera was so angry, his interaction with him was very wonderful. So much so that at the end of the interaction, he actually offered him a benediction, which would not be what you would think. He would, he might say, okay, I accept your apology, but still you should, chant 64 rounds. Still you should do this or do that. There should be some repercussion for what you did. Instead, he explained that you're basically like a pure devotee, and you should practice the path of pure devotion, and you try to do everything with such a wonderful heart. So I want to offer you a benediction. And what was the benediction that Dhruva Maharaj requested? He requested pure devotional service. He requested pure devotional service. And it's described that Kuvera also granted that to him. So, yeah, it's very transformational. Of course, the offering of an apology, sometimes it can be done, hey, I'm sorry. And that's like, it doesn't touch the heart. So if we really feel it, when we want to apologize, we have to really feel it and own that I've really had some serious part in making this happen. Sometimes we say, well, 50% of the problem is your problem and 50% of the problem is my problem. But in one sense, if we want to own it, we have to own 100% of our 50% and not worry about their 50%. Their 50% is for them and Krishna to figure out. But 100% of my 50% I own, and I'm sorry, genuinely sorry for that. So also being very sincere. What time is it? The scaffolding is... I have so many different things. Yeah. Yes. I thought it was an interesting point in one of the previous purports. Srila Prabhupada points out that Dhruva Maharaj, he took the benediction from Kuvera, who is a demigod, and then he says, some may question whether or not we should take benedictions from demigods. And Prabhupada says, there's no problem taking benedictions from demigods, as long as it's for Krishna, for the progression. He says, taking a benediction from, as long as it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness, which I thought was a very interesting point. So we may think we see things black and white, but they're not. So then we come to today's verse, and we see that after that, Dhruva acted on this benediction, and it's described that he developed samadarshinaha, that he became he saw with equal vision everyone, because he began to see the Lord in the heart of everyone, of all living entities, which is a beautiful and wonderful meditation, not always so easy to do, but whenever, I think, of course, when you go out on Sankirtan, book distribution, you try to see that the person you're speaking to is a spirit soul and Krishna is in their heart. Of course, sometimes we can think, please, Paramatma, let him take a book and give a big donation. So we're trying to connect with the Paramatma in different ways, but, trying to really see. But it can be anyone, when you get on the bus, to look at the bus driver and say, hello, and just think, Krishna is in your heart. You are a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Isn't that amazing? And you may not say all that, but just to think it, they will pick up on it. And we've seen, that sometimes, there's a saying that you catch more ants with honey or sugar than you do with vinegar. So just by being sweet, right? You can pick up when someone is in a foul mood, even if they don't say anything. It's like the energy radiates. And the opposite is also true. If we're actually Krishna conscious, means we're conscious of seeing Krishna in the heart of others and dealing and interacting with them as if they are Krishna's parts and parcels. It makes a complete difference, Sometimes it's easy to fall into different traps. I was just thinking again about Sankirtan, how we just start to see people as pocketbooks or purses. and like, oh, here comes someone, I hope they give a donation, I hope they help my score. Instead of thinking about them as spirit souls who are like parts and parcels of the Lord, and that the Lord is maybe directing them to me. Maybe this is the soul that Krishna wants to get a book and start their journey, back to Godhead. So, just in conclusion, this verse also touches on the godly qualities of Dhruva Maharaj as a leader. The whole verse and purport is all about the importance of leadership having godly qualities. Prabhupada says the king, then he says even the democratic governments, but that means also in the association of devotees, in the community of devotees. We also have to emanate these. We can't just think because whatever, I've got Dodi, Tilak, Kurta, Siko, or chanting every day. We still have to cultivate these qualities, and we all have different natures. We see here Dhruva Maharaj was on the perfected platform, and still he was affected by anger and upset. Still, he unleashed his Kshatriya nature in a way that was good for the protection of the citizens, but it went to extremes. So we have to recognize that also we will make mistakes. The Bhagavad Gita explains every endeavor is covered by some fault. So we're always making mistakes. But the point is to try to rectify those mistakes, to take the humble position, to apologize, to see maybe what I've done wrong and how I can improve. But we see here specifically that Dhruva Maharaj was respectful to the devotees of the Supreme Lord. And I was thinking that this is just such a wonderful verse of how we should be respectful. Of course, we might say, well, who's a leader? Right? We often say that. And it's very easy to know who the leader is because he's the one that everyone's pointing at. He's the leader. Actually, Pradyumna Prabhu is the leader. He is a leader. So we can all turn and point at him. No, I'm just kidding. So who's the leader? And we point at the leader. But actually, who is the leader? Who is a leader? Okay, yeah. Lots of people to point to. I think we should point here. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs that everyone should become a guru. All of us should become a guru. We should all become leaders. Guru means a leader, right? And if you're a parent, you're a leader. If you're a boss, you're a leader. If you take a position, you're a leader. If you're senior in age, you become a leader. If you're spiritually advanced or a teacher, you become a leader. So many ways. But to become a guru means you also have to be a teacher, and that means you also become a leader. and we have to develop these qualities. So each and every one of us have to, of course, work on ourselves and try especially to be respectful to the devotees, to look after and care for the devotees, and remember that Vaishnav Seva is at the core of what we do as devotees, that we try to look after and care for each other. And was it this beautiful letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Atreya Rishi, where he says that the devotees of the Lord are better than kings. Every single one of them, he says. And whenever I read that, I think, well, what about this one? I mean, come on, Prabhupada, maybe you didn't know about these few ones over here. But Prabhupada says every single one of them are better than kings. And yeah, so just to try to remember the gems, the jewels that the devotees are. And it becomes difficult sometimes in close association. Familiarity breeds contempt, and we get to know this devotee and that devotee, and it's like, So, but somehow to overcome that judgmental, critical mentality, and still somehow find something to be grateful and appreciative of in the devotees. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. I don't know if we have a minute or two. If anyone has a reflection, question, chastisement, anything. Nardamuni Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I have a comment and a question.
And a chastisement.
Definitely not. I was thinking about, I think it's Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He says that if someone is 99% wrong and you're 1% wrong, you should always apologize for the 1% of being wrong, even if they never apologize ever for what they did 99% wrong. I find that's a really, really helpful thing in life, because it's like constantly keeping on your toes of what can I improve on instead of what can others improve on. And I guess this kind of leads into my question, where Srila Prabhupada is talking about leadership in this purport. And you mentioned nicely how this isn't just meant for democratic leaders or political politicians, or it's meant for devotees to internalize that and actually try and apply that in their life. And I'm just wondering, what are, you mentioned Vaishnav Seva, so maybe that's the practical aspect, but it's especially when someone actually has a position and a title of being a leader, what are the practical ways that looks like to actually keep the devotees inspired, not just on the plea of using, some sort of shastra to just tell them to surrender, but the actual process of inspiring somebody to engage in service to Radha Govinda. I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Very nice question. A couple things come to mind, but one of the first things is there was a book by Purnachandra Maharaj called Obstacles on the Path of Devotion. In the back of the book, I always remember that there's a statement, and I can't remember specifically now, but he mentions that things that inspire the devotees are ways to avoid offenses, and he says, especially when leaders serve the devotees. And I think he might even mention there serving prasadam and just taking a humble position and doing the needful, doing the service, not sitting aloof, just mandating. That's also required by a leader. I remember having a conversation with one senior devotee, and they were describing that, if you're busy down, if you're meant to be the captain of the ship, you're meant to be up there with the lens looking ahead, seeing where you're going. If you're down in the rowing the boat, you can't really see where you're going. So, and so sometimes we have to make sure we're positioned right, but when we get the chance, we should always try to engage in some service, direct service to the devotees. And of course, there's nothing more pleasing than prasadam. Right now, it's getting towards 9, and devotees are starting to think about prasadam. And so to serve devotees prasadam is a very, very pleasing thing. That's kind of one simple and practical. The other thing is that, again, a very senior devotee shared with me once. He said, I travel around the world. I've been to so many centers, so many temples, seen so many devotees. And he said, and the one thing that I see everywhere that I go is that devotees just need someone to speak to. They just need someone to reveal their mind and heart to. And he said, and wherever I go, it always seems that the leaders are too busy to actually be with and to sit with and talk with the devotees. And so he was encouraging that there needs to be a space for devotees to be able to reveal their heart and talk to someone and feel like that person has their best interest. Of course, there will probably always be some level of doubt within a devotee. Even if a leader who has a position allows someone to open their heart, they may still be guarded because there's always a fear that they're going to be more interested in the position, the service, rather than the person. So to be able to be objective, practical example, there was a devotee that joined the ashram, and for many years he was... There you go. There's the leader. So he knows how important prasadam is. So anyway, the point being that it's very easy sometimes to, even though you care about a person, the individual, but trying to balance the importance of the project and to make a decision or a call when interacting with the devotee, that actually the most important thing here is you. The project Krishna will take care of. If I take care of you, then the project will manifest. Sometimes it's easy to put the priority the other way because it seems like that's the way that it should be. If I take care of the project, Krishna will send the people. But sometimes it's like a conveyor belt. People keep coming, people keep going. Project kind of goes up and down. But it'd be wonderful if devotees could stay for some time and be fixed up. Those are just a few things. And I think I'll finish there since the cue has come. I don't know what the next cue will be, but I don't want to interact. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Nitai Gauda Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.